Hi, this is Rich Krueger coming to you almost live for the online Paul Henry Gallery open mic. And it's been a terrible week for the world and for our communities, and they're boarding up stores in my neighborhood for reasons I don't quite understand. Fear, I think, mostly. And because this inconveniences people, it makes that white people like me angry and wants to support the police and all the things that they're doing, like killing people indiscriminately who are just inconvenient. So I thought I'd keep it on a lighter note, which is to share with you some of the books from my youth. Um, uh, Particularly the books of George Ryley Scott. Um, Now, the Riley is spelled R-Y-L-E-Y. He's from England. He wrote a variety of books, but you shouldn't confuse him with George R. Scott, who wrote this very important treatise on rabbit keeping, or George Ryley Scott with an I from Rhode Island, which had the very important Produce Your Own Eggs Now, or How to Keep Chickens in Wartime. I should share this book with Dennis Leise. I just had to add a little bit of more information about Mr. Scott's work. It turns out that the book Rabbit Keeping and Produce Your Own Eggs Now, or How to Raise Chickens in Wartime are in fact George Ryley Scott books. He had weird editors who actually often did a poor job and misspelled his name, sometimes within the same book. For example, in Curious Customs of Sex and Marriage, the his middle name is spelled Riley, which is incorrect. Which is it's supposed to be Ryley, but in fact, within the same book, you can see that if I get it right here, that Mr. Scott's name was spelled properly. Um, so it's just crappy editing. I'm going to have some more titles for you at the very end of this film. Hope you enjoy the show. No, the George Ryley Scott I'm talking about was the author of this book, The History of Capital Punishment. Um, this is very interesting. This was written in 1950. When I was a child, we didn't really have a lot of books in the house until my mom married someone in 1970 who had about 35,000 books, and then we had a lot of books. But before then, we had very few. She had either neglected to return this book or stole it essentially from the Brooklyn Public Library. This book has a lot of pictures in it, which were very interesting to me when I was a very small child, about how to press people to death, or drawing and quartering, or sawing in half. It's really kind of a how-to, and I think it was largely the biggest book she used in terms of child rearing. That was the follow-up to the very successful History of Torture by George Ryley Scott, which was published in 1940. But he wrote a lot of variety of books, particularly the Curious Customs of Sex and Marriage, which I think is very interesting since he also wrote on torture. Um, Probably more important was his book, The History of Prostitution, and 10 Ladies of Joy, going more specific detail on the whole subject of prostitution. Um, he had a very long list of books that he wrote on in various subjects. Trying to find, I think it was in this book here, the 10 Ladies of Joy. Some of the other books. I don't have a full collection. I'm generally a completist, so I have to find some of these other important titles. Um, but here we go. Works by George Ryley Scott. There's books on medical and sexual hygiene, such as venereal disease, its prevention and conquest, the new art of love, sex in married life, the sex life of man and woman, sex and its mysteries, Scott's Encyclopedia of Sex, Sex Problems and Dangers, Your Sex Questions Answered, Modern Birth Control Methods. Realize that this was written in the 50s. Male Methods of Birth Control, Female Methods of Birth Control, Facts and Fallacies of Practical Birth Control, Practical Birth Control by Nature's Method, Secrets of Keeping Healthy and Living Long. That's to the bottom of the list. I think that should be at the top of the list. Then there's the Sociology, Anthropology section of his book, Quest of Youth, The Common Sense of Nudism, The Story of Baths and Bathing, Marriage in a Melting Pot, The History of Prostitution, which I showed you. The other couple of books are Phallic Worship. He's got a whole text on phallic worship. Far Eastern Sex Life, Into Whose Hands, Man and His Illusions, and a bunch of miscellaneous titles, including the 10 Ladies of Joy that I showed you in Successful Writing. They're difficult to come by, these George Ryley Scott books, as they were published in England, and they're old. But what's interesting is in all of the prefaces and introductions and book flaps, they don't tell you anything about who this guy is. And I've never been able to figure out who this guy was either. But he had eclectic tastes, and that fit with me as well. So now that we're going to try to do a song, again, another lighthearted one about being homeless in America. Kingfisher Sam and Walton will explain you from his grave just why he can't be undersold. He's where I bought this brand new tent. It run me less than a month's rent, even less than the monthly mortgage I used to hold. Till the paper was worth more than the house, and the bank said, go. Still winter in Fresno, won't meet up again until sometime late Halloween. But by then who knows how bad things just might be. But for now, like all these other families in all these other tents, I just kind of got caught up a little in between. A little in between. Well, folks say that California's a Garden of Eden, hobbies, nature boys, as clever as their tans and as beach stoned to a man. But here in this in-and-no town, lives remain about as easy as falling neath a train. A governor closed New Jack City but said we can all move on up to a state fair. That way the state cops can watch us closer there. And summer in Sacramento will make you drier than a stone. 200 miles north of all you had and all you'd known. And now you're strung out like a wire, hung from where your future was to wherever the hell your future's gone, and you're left hanging in between and on your own, forgotten and alone. Kingfish, Huey P. Long sang there's enough for folks to share. And if y'all work hard, you can even be a millionaire. Call him a demigod, a Bolshevik, a crack in her clown. He sang every man a king, but no man wears a crown. He built bridges, he built highways, he built a hospital at LSU. That was until doctors shot him in 1935 and he led to death at the age of 42. Well, Woody Guthrie and FDR, so it was Sam and Huey in an abandoned car behind a vacant Walmart in a town like them that's died. Huey strummed Woodrow's guitar and sang a song for working folks with kids who gotta live in their cars. Franklin whispers sweetly in this light, Sam, you look just like Eleanor. Kingfisher Sam M. Wall can't recall just what the hell his whole life was for, though he's sure it was gold, or maybe it was green, or maybe something in between. I'm going to dedicate that one to the local Walmart near me, which is where the guy who stole my wallet started spending my credit cards. It's boarded up now, along with the grocery store across the street, I guess for safety's sake, and there's cops patrolling the Walmart parking lot, presuming to keep people safe from Walmart products. The other thing I'd like to show you is I was looking for a guitar to play. I decided to play this one here, which I hadn't played for about 6 months, and you can see this black stuff all here. It's not the pick guard back over here. This is the pick guard, but below that is all of this stuff here. That's all human blood. It's my human blood. I caught myself playing at a concert at the Gallery Cabaret. Never managed to clean the blood off of it, but it's kind of nice. And there's a lot of blood in the streets right now, and I thought I'd use this to emphasize that. Well, have a great week, and I hope to see you next week. Bye. Hi, I wanted to share a couple of other additional titles that by George Ryley Scott. There's Such Outlaws as Jesse James, from which I am going to take the title of my upcoming album, from a phrase here that I came across in reading it, which let's see here. It's very early in the book where he's talking about why people are into crime stories. And the sentence, for the average dull, respectable citizen, vicarious excitement is the only form he can ever hope to experience. So the title of the album is, of course, going to be For the Average Dull, Respectable Citizen, Vicarious Excitement. Other interesting books, we have several more coming, like Scott's Encyclopedia of Sex, and a very interesting book on nudism. But this one is a really early copy of his book, Phallic Worship, and it's actually signed by Mr. Scott, and it's number 262 out of 775 copies made. So this is a rare title, copy of a book of an unusual title. There's, of course, this very interesting book, History of Corporal Punishment, which I can't recommend too highly. And then, of course, Far Eastern Sex Life. I'm not holding these up properly. Far Eastern Sex Life. And an enormously useful book called the Truth About Poultry, an Exposure of Humbug. And one of my newest and most favorite books, his book, The History of Cockfighting. I'm hoping to, as a completist, get all of the titles in eventually, but I thought I'd share these with you too, since I was here. And hope you enjoyed the song. I believe there was a song in this video.